We're live. NFL show, NFL recap, NFL previews. We are going to talk about the championship games. But first, we're going to talk about the divisional rounds. Everybody's here. Dylan, Ben, Connor, we're all here for this one. Happy Martin Luther King Day, Dylan.
Martin, it's a lot of days today. I never thought one day could have so many days. You got National Championship Day. You got Martin Luther King Jr. Day. You got Inauguration Day. Can I say something?
Please.
Abby does not like what I'm about to say. But
okay.
Every time I saw a clip of a guy in a Rams jersey, and it's January 6th. The last name's January, the number is 6. And I just keep thinking, if I got that jersey, I don't think I would be able to stop laughing for the longest time. It's the same thing during COVID. We saw a Rams jersey with COVID as a last name and 19. These might be the funniest jerseys I think I've ever seen. I was up last night, 12:30 a.m. I just randomly thought about it, started chuckling, and Abby's like, "What are you laughing at?" I was like, "You don't want to know. You don't even want to know what I'm laughing at the thought of. I'm not even on my phone."
You and Abby need those jerseys that match. That's like together since 2021.
Oh, that's beautiful.
See, she would love that.
I could get her on board with that one, I think.
I think so,
the January 6th is where I draw the line.
Yeah,
she was like,
can't get on the January 6th train.
She said, "You're not wearing that in public with me." And I said, she said, "I'm not getting that for you," something like that. And I said, "Well, I think the Karterkast boys are already on it. So I don't know.
No.
I don't know if
we
you
don't
have
need
much
her
to
to
say
hate us.
about
We don't need
this."
her to hate us, Dylan. Come on.
Let's just say we're preliminary talks have begun about getting that done.
Now imagine we draft Shedeur Sanders #1, and then as a gift, I get a Tennessee Titans baby blue, maybe even Houston Oilers January 6th jersey.
You probably won't be the only one to order that.
Honestly, you're probably right. Can I make my announcement? I forget how we even got here, but
it's like on Fanatics.
Yeah, I'm probably
on sale. You don't even have to customize it; it's just already there.
And for the producer listening, who knows? But we'll probably have to cut to the beginning of the show immediately to this next announcement.
Oh no, Karter! This is what the people are clamoring for. This is what the people want. They want.
Okay.
We're humans, right? We're not just some sports robots. We're humans. Major announcement. If you've been watching this show, you know how awful this football season's been for me. And it's betting wise, I've been good with like fantasy drafts, but awful on bets. I've simpled it down. Keep it simple, stupid. We're going back to 2022, 2023 Karterkast. I'm done with the iPad notes. I ordered off Amazon. We're going back to Snoopy. We're going back to the basics. Snoopy notebook. And you know what?
No notes.
Prime Dylan.
Buddy, what we're doing here,
there you go.
I just ordered it. Of course, if I go to the middle. But also, just in case we have any notes that come up in the middle of the show, this is a new edition that I didn't have earlier. Write it down. Just a quick little, hey, Karter says something stupid. I want to write it down in my little jot notebook.
Yeah.
So we're back. I just want to let everybody know we're back. So when we're talking about these conference championship games.
Oh, so that's so that's your burner then. The Snoopy notes are your burner because you're going to say, oh, Karter's going to write or say something stupid like, oh, he thinks Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to win a football game. Let's write that down. And then you're never going to bring that up again because Mahomes and Chiefs are going to win that football game. You're like the commenters, Dylan.
Well, I will only bring it up if it benefits me. That's kind of what I want to get at.
Yeah,
here,
so I mean, you might we need a Dylan burner.
Every person on social media, yeah.
I have a burner. Good luck finding it.
Oh, we know which one it is.
I'm sure there's a few keyword phrases I could search up and find that thing pretty quickly, Dylan.
Give us some examples, Connor.
No, let's just move on to the championship.
January 6th.
Jersey. COVID-19 jersey.
It's under that Rams jersey comment. Be like, dude, that's sick. Where did you get it?
Send me a link.
Send me a link, yeah.
It's like Ryan Daylover 69.
How'd you find it?
Do you have news and notes, Dylan?
I have news and notes. It's short because I know we have a lot to get to. Just a couple things that I wanted to bring up. One for Ben specifically, but we'll start. Jared Verse saying he hates Philadelphia before playing them. Fair or foul?
Fair. What's wrong with that?
Completely fair because of the way he played. I think he backed it up, especially in the first half.
Completely fair because everyone hates Philly. That's not from Philly.
Everyone. Ben, Connor, I understand, Connor, you're Mr. Philadelphia, cheesesteak, Philly scumbag, Lancaster County type thing. I'm back in on hating Philadelphia. And I will get to it in the previews, but Philadelphia fans on my timeline have made me irate. They're entitled. They say whatever they want to say. They act like they're too good for everybody else. I am back on the Philadelphia hate. But that was my next question. Connor, I think you said it. Obviously, the Rams lose. Played, honestly, it was a pretty good game. But Jared Verse on his own has 4 tackles, 2 sacks. Philly fans can't be like, oh, look at what you're saying now, right? He played well enough to where that's if you say that as a Philly fan, you're kind of outing yourself maybe as a non-ball knower.
Well, if he's going to come out and, provoke them like that, you gotta be able to take a response. So I don't have any problem with that. But yeah, they can't go after him and be like, oh, he didn't show up. Nah, he had a great game.
But as like us, we're not Philly fans, we're not Rams fans. If a Philly fan starts to do that, and we can look and we can say, oh, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, we'd be like, okay, Philly fan, maybe we're taking a little bit of a stretch here with the liberties we're taking as to trashing the comments Jared Verse made.
Sure, I'll agree with that.
All right. Anybody else have comments on that or next news and notes?
No, keep going.
Carter's texting somebody. Carter's texting Trump. He's trying to get in on that Melania coin. He's like, hey, buddy.
No.
Hey, buddy, you got
Keep
any
going.
left over? Okay. Ben, this one is, honestly, I thought of you when I asked this. Should coordinators be able to interview for head coach jobs if their teams are in the playoffs?
I'm gonna say yeah. I don't think it was the coordinator's fault that this happened.
But think
I
about
think
it.
it was just a bad game all around. Like,
Bad game, sure. Well, we'll get to some of the Ben Johnson stuff when we talk about the Lions game. But you're each coordinator taking 3 hours out of their day when they're supposed to be prepping for playoff games to do interviews with, and that's not like, oh, Ben Johnson's fault. That's just the nature of
It's
how
like they
things
have
are.
to do it.
Yeah. It's not so much, I don't want to put blame on them, but the idea of you're supposed to be getting ready for a playoff game, and I understand they've had 2 weeks, 1 week to prepare for a certain opponent, but I don't know. It's kind of like the transfer portal thing in college football where it's like, why do you I get why you have to hire a head coach so soon. You have Glenn, you have Johnson, who are great candidates for a head coaching job. Something seems a little off about that, though. Am I the only one that thinks that?
You have to prep for the interviews too. Is the thing. It's not just 3 hour interview. You have to prep for those. Know what you're talking
and how
about,
many
right?
how many times has Ben Johnson interviewed for? I mean, that's what, at least 4 or 5 interviews I can think of
the
off the
last
top of my
few
head.
years.
Except,
Wow.
do you think a guy like Ben Johnson at this point is just like, yeah, I'll take the interview, but I'm not prepping for it. Like,
That's just look what I've done on the
He's just like-
field.
he's just like, look, yeah, and he's like, and I've shown that I'll just turn down the opportunity if I don't like you. So it's really like me interviewing you.
Oh.
At least when Ben Johnson when Ben Johnson meets with the Bears, I view it as Ben Johnson interviewing the Bears.
That's fair.
I do. I do.
You're probably
but
right.
I do. But I do think, like, right, everything in the NFL is paused during the NFL playoffs. Like, right, there's no roster moves that can really be made of any significance. Free agency doesn't start till after the season ends. So, like, would it really hurt? Maybe there's a clear answer. Someone will be like, yes, because of XYZ. Like, is there a real reason why we can't just wait until, like, the day after the Super Bowl, all these guys just, like...
Well, no important
through
transactions. Deontay Johnson's switched teams a few times now. So, there's some important transactions. Come on.
Listen,
now.
And right, I know that's convenient. That's convenient. Like, I didn't care. The only reason I'm saying this is because Dylan brought it up. I'm like, oh, yeah, that might be better. But it's going to come across as me being like, oh, well, our court, like... I'm not trying to, like, whine or complain about it. It is what it is. I don't contribute anything about our loss to that, but I do think going forward, like, the interviews happening after the Super Bowl entirely, I don't know. I don't see anything wrong with that. Maybe I'm missing something, but
Karter, coordinators interviewing for head coaching jobs while their team's in the playoffs. Fair or foul?
Fair.
All right.
Dylan,
Comment,
I do have
yes.
a comment on that.
Comment.
Do you shop for shoes barefoot? Because you might need to be looking for your next gig while you're with your current team. I don't hate it.
That's a great question. That might be quote card worthy. Do you shop with shoes barefoot? Do you shop for underwear naked?
No, you don't.
Do you shop for... I
Don't
can't think
say
of anything.
Yep.
I can't think of anything else. All right. Power rank these Kansas City Chief fans. Taylor Swift, Caitlin Clark, the Rizzler.
You know, voter fatigue, Taylor Swift can't be number one. So voter fatigue, I gotta put the Rizzler number one.
Rizzler's easily one.
I think Rizzler has to be number one.
Rizzler's unanimous.
Now,
Yeah.
Trust Tree, make sure this gets scrubbed from the internet.
You hate him.
My jaw dropped when I saw Caitlin Clark in that suite.
Why?
My jaw dropped. I didn't know she was a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I was like,
Did you not see her? Did you not see her on that podcast?
what podcast? I don't watch anything except the Karterkast.
Angel Reese's podcast.
No,
Oh,
no. Did you see her? She was on the Kelsey podcast last week or something like that.
Did she say she was going to be at the game?
I don't know. You think I watched?
You think everybody that goes on the Kelsey podcast is a Chiefs fan? Maybe she's an Eagles fan.
Is she a Chiefs
I actually
fan?
don't know.
She might be a Chiefs AFC fan, Eagles NFC fan, and it's like she's priming herself up for some happiness here in the next couple weeks.
Is she a plant to make the Chiefs more likable? People like Caitlin Clark. So it's like, oh, I hate the Chiefs. I hate Taylor Swift. Oh, Caitlin Clark supports them. Maybe I don't hate him as much now.
I've got some people on the inside that I would say fit the profile of a stereotypical Caitlin Clark fan, specifically when she was in college. They're kind of turning on her.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. We're not talking about the inauguration, but there's a certain sect of people that are turning on her a little bit.
Yeah, because she grew up as a Panthers fan. I mean, she used to love Jake Delhomme and Steve Smith. Yeah, that's what I was told.
You're lying.
I am.
No integrity.
And then they drafted Bryce Young, and she's like, "Oh, I gotta go to a real quarterback." Sorry about it.
She was wrong. No.
That's all I have for news and notes. Karter, I gotta call it out. Last year, Super Bowl preview or Super Bowl recap show. You said the Eagles. You said the Eagles were going to have the biggest fall off ever coming into this year. You have any comments?
Yeah, I was wrong.
I mean, you said ginormous fall off.
Did someone in there agree?
I did
Someone
not
in there?
agree. I did not agree, but I did
I'm
say.
not talking about you, Connor. I'm talking about someone over there in Ohio.
No, I did not agree, but I did say that
The Notre Dame fan.
Play like a champion today, baby.
Play like a champion today.
I did say the Bengals were going to win the Super Bowl and beat the Vikings. Connor, you said the Bengals were going to win the Super Bowl and beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think I said Niners over Chiefs, right?
You said Niners over Chiefs.
And then before the
So you're
season
good.
started, I said Chiefs 3-peat. So
yeah, well,
yeah. Anyhow,
Eagles going to fall off. All right, that's all I got for news and notes. I think that's all I remember.
all right, let's go through some of these games real quick. Where do we want to start? We want to start with the most recent one. We want to talk about what happened yesterday in Buffalo.
Okay,
Let's talk about
sure.
what happened
Sounds
in
like
Buffalo
you have
yesterday.
a direction you want to go.
I was just trying to think of the game that happened last, and then we go from there. But that's all I had.
The Buff Balls game.
Yeah, Buffalo, Baltimore. Dylan. Game in Orchard Park. Buffalo wins. Close one. Mark Andrews. This is Dylan. You texted us in a quick little rundown talking about how this game is going to be remembered. How Mark Andrews was the reason why they lost this game, and this is going to be the Mark Andrews game and everything like that. And he's going to be the scapegoat for Lamar. So you're zagging.
Well, I don't. An important point I want to make is Lamar. The Ravens lost just about 40% of net win percentage on turnovers, right? So, and part of that is Lamar. You have the fumble, you have the really bad interception, that was just awful. I have to think there was a miscommunication there. But Lamar does kind of have to thank Mark Andrews because we're not really talking about Lamar after this game. If it wasn't for the two Mark Andrews fumbles, or I guess the last one wasn't a fumble, but drop, we're talking about Lamar as if he's this playoff cancer that just doesn't show up in the playoffs. Guys, Stroud had a 10 times worse game against the Chargers, and the only difference is they won. Like, if the Ravens won this game, there would be no talk about playoff Lamar. There would be no talk about the Andrews stuff. So it just kind of goes to show how interesting it is when you win a game, how the narrative completely changes. Now, I said the win percentage. Bills, Great game plan coming into this. Blitzed on almost 50% of dropbacks, their 5th highest under McDermott, and their highest since week 15, 2021. They were playing the Panthers. That game was against the Panthers, boys. I think the main thing I take away here, Josh Allen didn't really light it up either. He had the 2 rushing touchdowns, but I think 170-some yards in the air, most of them to Shakir. Did the right team win?
I want to push back on the Lamar thing, Dylan. I feel like this is a boring answer, but I feel like there's some sort of middle ground. I don't necessarily think Lamar would have gone blameless if they did win that game. Yes, we wouldn't be talking about it, but the Stroud point you made, Stroud doesn't have a history of doing this in the playoffs. This is Stroud's second year in the league, and he didn't have a reputation for that. Lamar, I think, has been rightfully criticized for his past playoff performances. And he did, I'll give him credit, Lamar played well enough to win yesterday, but he's also not blameless. There were a couple mistakes, the fumble specifically, that immediately led to 7 points for the Buffalo Bills. So he's not blameless, but I do think there is a middle ground, just because of his history as well.
Yeah, and when the precedent is set, it's tough. It's tough to shake that when you put up a performance like that.
You're looking for it. It's like, oh, when's Lamar going to choke? When's Lamar going to blow this game? And I'm sure people on social media were waiting for that to happen. And he actually led that drive down the field at the end of the game and put them in a position to tie the game. Now, we can talk about the throw. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but that's a catchable ball. If you're Mark Andrews, you have to catch that.
Yeah, that throw is behind.
It was good enough.
It was good enough. I'll give you that.
To win, to tie the game.
Yeah,
you have to catch it. You have to catch it. But yes, I do agree it wasn't a perfect throw. But I think like Lamar, that was I think where he's going to catch criticism, whether it's fair or not, is that like this was a B- Lamar game just because of the couple turnovers. Obviously he played well enough to win, but he wasn't like his A. He didn't bring like an A+ Lamar performance.
Yeah. Did Josh Allen bring an A+ performance? Because I don't think so.
Nobody won. And that's dumb. Yeah. But that's dumb because quarterback wins are not a stat. But yeah, and you had a couple of, like, obviously Mark Andrews, that's kind of the thing on the internet right now, obviously. But Lamar did have a couple turnovers, like, didn't have the best game. But I didn't come out of that game going, oh, like, that continues this narrative. I mean, it will, but, like, I don't think it's rightfully so that we're going to continue that with Lamar a little bit. That we just knew, I mean, there were going to be people just clowning and saying so-and-so can't win blank game with either of these quarterbacks losing. Yeah. If Buffalo had lost, we would have piled on them too.
Yeah, what I hate too, real quick, Karter, is only one team from the AFC can make the Super Bowl. And I think people forget about that, where it's like, we're going to talk about how Lamar's never had success in the playoffs and has never done X, Y, and Z. Well, you got to face either Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, most likely. And now
or Burrow in some years too.
Or Burrow. Yeah. You want to throw CJ Stroud in there. I understand he didn't have
Russell
a great
Wilson.
year. Right. You see, the Ravens had to face Russell Wilson. Like, we got all these things going on here, and it's just one team, one quarterback is going to make it out of that. And I think we forget that, where we start trashing. We'll do the same probably with Josh Allen. If he puts up a stinker and the Chiefs win, we won't do it about Mahomes. He's earned it. But that's just kind of like, only one team can make it. It's as simple as that.
My issue with the game wasn't look, the Lamar stuff, yeah, Mark Andrews, that's the easy stuff to point to. Why doesn't Harbaugh get any blame for this game?
That Karter, I came prepared for that because lack of playoff results. We talk about Mike Tomlin. I ripped on Mike Tomlin in the last recap episode. John Harbaugh's in that same camp. All right, here we go. Since 2018, including the playoffs, the Ravens are 0-10 when trailing by 10 or more at halftime. Hasn't made a Super Bowl since 2012. Only one conference title appearance last year. We know what happened there. They're 4-7 in the playoffs as a whole since the 2012 Super Bowl. Why is John Harbaugh not getting talked about as a over 500 merchant, make the playoffs merchant?
Okay, I'm going to get clowned. No, I'm not a historian. He's won a Super Bowl, hasn't he?
He has, but
Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin won a Super Bowl.
Then that's it. That's why. That's why I would. That's what I would point to.
12 years ago.
I was really disappointed with the Ravens' game plan. The game plan is very simple against Buffalo. If you're Baltimore, run the damn ball. It's that simple. You just run it. Look what happened in the third quarter. Dylan, what happened in that third quarter?
What? First half, Henry had 21 yards in the first half, so they did contain him in the first half.
Yeah.
Then how did it work in the second half?
I feel like they did try in the first half. I don't think it was from lack of trying. They had plenty of handoffs to Derrick Henry.
People will look at
it's not just a Derrick Henry thing. Okay, if Derrick Henry's not working, then let's run a lot of design plays for Lamar. I felt like there was no need to go into the air. Justice Hill. Dylan, Justice Hill. Oh, no. Blew the parlay. Blew the parlay, you know.
Didn't you blow it last week, though? So, hey, PEMDAS, we're even.
Yeah.
All right. Yep, we're good. We're good. PEMDAS.
Yeah, like Kansas out or whatever.
Yeah.
I was going to say something. We were talking about John Harbaugh. Oh, the Bills' defense gets everybody's like, oh, they can't defend against the rush. It's not the rush that they have a problem with. It's short passes to backs in the backfield. For some reason, they allow the most receiving yards to running backs in the NFL, the second most touchdowns to the same type of play. Like, the rush defense is middle of the pack in the NFL. It's not like it's this awful unit. It's the quick passes to backs. For some reason, they struggle with it.
Derrick Henry dropped that big one in the first half, too. That was in the first half, right?
Did.
It was that short throw. I mean, the throw was behind him. But
that's why you get Justice Hill in there. You do not have Derrick Henry as your pass catching back. You don't do it.
Well, this game specifically, you talk about lack of like screen passes and stuff like that. Zay Flowers being out hurt Baltimore. Yeah. No Ravens wide receiver had more than one catch besides Rashad Bateman. And then if you look at the other side, no Bills wide receiver had more than 10 yards besides Shakir. So there wasn't a lot of receiving from outside weapons in this game. I think that hurt Baltimore a lot more because I don't think Lamar is necessarily used to that without having Zay Flowers, that gadget, run a 5-yard slant, catch it, or here's 15 yards, get in the middle of the zone defense. I think they missed that a lot. And it was surprising to me, Karter, this goes to your point, Derrick Henry only had 16 touches in that game. I know the game script wasn't in their favor, but if you have arguably probably top 2 running back in the league this year, 16 touches, I feel like you have to find a way to get him the ball more, get him going more. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you're Lamar, not just Lamar, but like a Ravens fan in general, are you just so frustrated? I know Zay Flowers, like that injury makes sense, but it just feels like years upon years where it's like you lose in the divisional round. It's like, well, Lamar doesn't really have any weapons on the outside and just keeps being the case year after year. I know Zay Flowers has stepped up. He's a good wide receiver and that he was missing for this game, but like that must be kind of frustrating too, that they don't have more playmakers on the outside.
Well, they finally got weapons like that. And then Zay Flowers fumble last year, cost him the game pretty much. And then this year he misses that game. So it's almost like Lamar's in the same boat in this game as he has been in the past is I don't have any receivers. I don't have any help. Rashad Bateman is my best receiver. I feel like that's been the case the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think
defense
that's fair.
too. This is probably the worst defense Baltimore's had in recent years.
Yeah, you're not used to that. You're used to them having a pretty strong defense.
Yeah.
Without Zay Flowers, are Buffalo's receivers better than Baltimore in that game? I feel like and Buffalo has been known to not have great receivers this year.
More star power, if anything.
I was about to say, I feel like it's pretty even.
Tylan Wallace.
Last stat on the Ravens before we move on. The Ravens, 2018-24. They are now the only other team besides the Colts with 80-plus wins in a 7-year span without reaching the Super Bowl. Now, the good news for the Colts fans is after 2005, they won the Super Bowl the next year, but 80 wins in a 7-season span without a Super Bowl appearance. That's got to hurt if you're a Ravens fan. Just consistently being right there, like you said, Ben, brutal.
How close are the Steelers to that number?
I feel like 80 wins in 7 seasons, they've had a lot of 8-9 win years, so they haven't really overachieved that much.
Yeah, it's got to be somewhat
It has got to be close,
number. Yeah. Rams Eagles. Eagles win 28-22 in this game. Snow game. This was if you're a Rams fan, you kind of got to feel sick after this game. You had it. You could have stole this game. You could have walked off. You had a minute left. Puka makes that catch. You had this game in the bag. It was right there for you to steal it from Philadelphia on the road. Then all of a sudden you're like, wait, we're going to be favored. We're going to have a home game in the NFC Championship game. All we got to do is close off this final drive, kick an extra point, and they just couldn't get it done right there because Matthew Stafford took that sack right there. Brutal stuff from the Rams Eagles. I'll ask you this, Dylan. Did you come away impressed with either team in this game?
The Rams, if anybody, because I just keep thinking back to the Rams of like week 5 that we kind of just, it was a foregone conclusion that it was a rebuild or they were going to be, maybe tanking as we like to say. I think what impressed me the most is that second to last drive where they scored Because the 3 possessions before that, it just looked like they weren't going to do anything. It looked like it was the weather or whatever it was. It was like they checked out or they couldn't do anything, and then they have that drive. Then they have the last drive where they do almost score, and it was like something clicked. I don't know what it was. I would walk
Eagles
away from
prevent defense.
That's true too. That's very true. I don't want to get that twisted. It could be that Eagles prevent defense. That kind of leads me to my question. Will a dome/warm weather team ever win another Super Bowl if they have to go somewhere cold? Like Stafford was visibly uncomfortable having to play in that cold weather.
Well, yeah, they'll be fine.
I don't think it's I think it's a little deceiving to be like, was it too cold? It's like, well, maybe the foot of snow also played into this as well.
But it didn't really seem. It only seemed to affect one team. And then think about it. We talked about this with the Dolphins.
One team primarily runs the ball and has a quarterback that doesn't really pass much of the other team. Vice versa. Like, not only was there the weather aspect, but there.
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I would think Kyren Williams runs the ball a lot more than we would think.
I still stand by the Eagles. The Eagles being like the best trenches team in the NFL.
Sure.
Like if you combine offensive line and defensive line and having the best running back in the NFL, like they did build a roster to take advantage of the weather. And so like I almost wouldn't say like if an LA team built a roster like Philly, like I think they would have benefited from that too.
So I hear you. Think about the last couple playoffs we've dealt with. Dolphins having to go to Kansas City, lay an egg. Oh, that's the conversation now is the warm teams can't play in the cold. Think about the last couple Super Bowl matchups. You have 49ers, Chiefs, cold team versus 1 seed 49ers, right? 1 seed. Eagles, cold team, no issues there. We're going to have to go back further. But I'm just saying.
Bucks, Chiefs.
Bucks. Okay, Bucks, Chiefs. I don't know. Were the Bucks the 1 seed? I don't remember. I don't think so. I don't know. I'm just saying maybe we need to go back and look at that. Maybe we need to go back and look at that and think, hey, because that's the narrative we always hear, and it seemed to be proven in this game. Because Stafford looked uncomfortable. Everybody for the Rams looked uncomfortable. I don't know.
I think just Philly's better built in the trenches, and I think that's the difference in these cold snow games.
Okay.
Well,
I'm going to do some research and get back to you because I think you're wrong, but
Karter, you made a point. You were like, if you're a Rams fan, you got to feel horrible. You got to feel horrible and all this stuff because you lost. Here's the thing with the Rams. You knew, everyone and their mother knew the Eagles were going to try to run the ball all over them coming into this game. They did it in the first matchup. Barkley went crazy. Hurts injured his leg. It was pouring snow. The Rams knew the run was coming. Hurts couldn't move for a couple drives there, and they still got gashed. So I don't feel sorry for them at all. I don't feel sorry for them at all. That was an offensive, but is there fans or whatever? Like, it wasn't some BS bogus win. They got beat in the trenches. The offensive line, for the lack of pass protection, Hurts got sacked 7 times. I get it. But the run blocking was there, and they gashed that Rams defense even when they knew what was coming. So I don't think it was some kind of, fluke win, Rams should have won, fans feel bad. Like, I don't feel sorry for them at all.
No. I'm not saying it's a fluke win by any means by the Eagles. It's the Rams just had a chance to steal that game, and you have to feel terrible because, look, to be honest, the Rams had no business being in the end of that game. If the Eagles could hit an extra point and just do the easy things and not get a false start penalty on the 1 yard line, like, they win that game, no problem. The Rams were very lucky to be in that spot at the very end, and they almost could have stolen it and would have been favored against the Commanders to go to the Super Bowl, playing a home NFC title game as a 4 seed. As a 4 seed, you would have had a home NFC title game.
And it was the big plays is what screwed the Rams because Barkley had 78 and 62-yard touchdown runs. Yeah. Hurts' run was a 44-yarder. It was just the big plays that really killed them. I don't even think for a defense that we criticized so much early in the year, we were like, oh, this Rams defense is horrible, one of the worst units in the league. They really came around. Jared Verse specifically and some of the D-line, they came around. They will be the first team in like a lot of years to not – first team with 15-plus sacks to not make it to the Super Bowl in NFL history. So, and they did it in 2 games. So, they played – the defense, that defense came around, but I don't know. It's just the big plays that gashed them.
Chris Shula, their defensive coordinator, will get some head coaching looks right now because he, with the limited talent he's had and the young roster he's had, They way overachieved on the defensive side of the ball, losing Aaron Donald this year. But credit the Rams. Eagles move on. We'll talk about the Eagles here in a little bit. Let's keep moving on. It's time. Lions, they lose to the Commanders. Kind of got whooped against the Commanders, if we're going to be honest. Ben, just State of the Union in Detroit.
This is the point in which I convene. I go to bat for them the whole year. Say the defense. You know what? Like, I think they're able to overcome the defense. This is where I then actually, you know what? I'm going to go away from that, and I'm going to start with this is all Sam Darnold's fault.
Ooh,
Sam Darnold was such a fraud and was so bad at playing the quarterback position that he convinced me that this Lions defense was going to be okay.
Counter. I think the division was fraudulent. I think the NFC North is essentially the SEC football. Is essentially the SEC of the NFL. I mean, you finally go all year. Everyone's saying the NFC North, they're amazing. They're this great division. Oh, the Super Bowl is going to be running through the NFC North. They're going to get 3 playoff teams. Then you get all these playoff teams, and they come into the playoffs, and what happens? I mean, they all put up stinkers. They all lose by double digits.
Well, yes, that's the case with the Lions, but I mean, I'm not going to accept this. Like, you gave me all the crap in the world for basically saying that those 2 other NFC North teams weren't good. I was consistent about that.
Yeah, you said you walked it back like 6 times, so I
walked back the Vikings. I did not walk back the Packers. I made a guarantee on the show.
Yeah, that's fair.
I remember the guarantee.
The Vikings.
I think the whole thing is that the whole division was fraudulent. The Lions, the Packers,
I know the Lions.
The
Lions still went 15-2 though.
I mean, what were 6 of their games? Who did they get to play 6 of their games against? That helps a lot. And also, the Lions did have one of the easiest schedules of the year. I mean, when we were doing our season previews, we're like, the Lions honestly should go 16-1.
But really, is your takeaway that just like, oh, they weren't actually good?
No, it's not.
Okay. Okay. No.
No, I will say it was the defense. Okay. The defense was depleted. It's that simple. But the real concern, if you're a Lions fan, was
Goff.
Was Jared Goff. He looked like Will Howard against Michigan in that game. Yeah, they put up a good amount of points, but that Commanders defense is absolute Swiss cheese. I mean, it was a Swiss cheese off. I was watching Pac-12 football on my iPad on Saturday night. It was terrible. Connor,
Dylan had a stroke.
It was bad. It wasn't football.
Yeah. Dylan texted us in a separate group chat, Ben, and goes, "This isn't real football."
Yeah, Ben, I said a couple things. I didn't want to send it in the...
No, you could have totally said that. I agree. That was not a real football game. Teddy Bridgewater came in for a drive and they scored a touchdown. Teddy Bridgewater
are allowed.
Yeah, but Teddy Bridgewater was coaching high school football a month ago, and he's playing in a playoff game. Yeah, no, it wasn't like I didn't know what I was watching.
Who had a better plus minus, Teddy Bridgewater or Jared Goff?
Oh, Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh yeah, had to have been, right?
Yeah, because he scored. They had that one touchdown when he
had +7.
Lions, Vikings, and Packers combined to lose 5 non-divisional games all regular season. They just went 0-3 in the playoffs against non-divisional teams. That's the stat I read down.
That's
tough. Crazy.
That is tough.
Who did they get to play against though? In the because it was NFC West, right? In the regular season.
Oh, I don't know.
So they had a lot of wins over.
Those are
like
not
the Lions
bad wins,
specifically
though.
Had wins over the Rams. You know, they won that week 1 game against
Rams,
the Rams.
Seahawks, Cardinals, Niners. Yeah.
Dylan, those other
takeaways
ones
from this game. What do you think? Jared Goff is. Where do you go from here if you're the Lions? It's just we got unlucky with the defense. Run it back next year. Obviously, is going to be the game plan. But I mean, is it just as simple as the defense was too depleted?
Going into this game, I think it was very obvious. The Commanders' defense is not good. And I don't think anybody would try to tell you this Commanders' defense is good outside of Mikey saying we're still a Michigan man. The game plan was pretty clear. Detroit's defense is depleted. It's been depleted all year. Offensively, you're going to have to play mistake-free football. That was kind of what it came down to. And unfortunately, the Lions were not able to do that. You had the Brian Robinson Jr. comeback game just out of nowhere. He looked dead in the dust. He was splitting snaps with Eckler at one point. Kirby Joseph, dirty player, hitting guy out of bounds. Daniels, 12 for 16 against the blitz for 191 yards. That goes to speak to Jayden Daniels and what he's done. We'll talk about it in the preview. Did the same thing against the Eagles when they blitzed him. If you're a conspiracy guy, the last time the Commanders, Redskins at the time, won a Super Bowl, they beat the Lions on the way in 1991. Who'd they win against? Anybody know? It's a team that's still in there. Bills. Yep, Ben. Were you going to say Bills?
Yeah, I was going to say Bills.
They beat the Bills. If you're a conspiracy guy, just want to throw that out there. Can I share a video real quick? Short clip from the game. I would be remiss if I did not bring this up. People forget Jameson Williams, Ohio State guy, like, oh, Alabama said. He did start his career at Ohio State. Let's get this up here. Now, this play right here, this is what I call, this is something Ben Johnson writes up in practice. You take it to Dan Campbell, and he's like, oh, I don't want to lose my coordinator. Let's keep this one in the playbook.
We need to get Dylan to tell Strader.
And then you'll see right here, boom, boom. What on God's green earth are we doing there? It's kind of fitting that the Ohio State guy throws the interception to the Michigan man. Had to get that jab in there. But, yeah, that's the play where Dan Campbell's like, okay, Ben, let's run that, and maybe we get to keep you in Detroit for another year.
Is that the first time, Ben, you correct me if I'm wrong, is that the first time they've run that play with Jameson Williams throwing the ball? Because
I think so, because we've gotten
We've seen
Amon-Ra
David
St.
Montgomery.
Brown. Yeah, David Montgomery. Amon-Ra St. Brown threw a touchdown pass to Jared Goff, I think, against Seattle.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And then we had an attempted one with Penei Sewell.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
If you're going to run a play like that with one of your weapons, you got to make sure it's drilled in their head. If it's not there, just throw it away or run it. Just try to get back to the line of scrimmage. And every
that
single
was
time
not
these
going to
guys,
happen with Jameson
every
Williams.
single time
No.
these guys are like, we're going for the home run play. Like, let's go.
Not a Buckeye.
Oh my gosh.
I think the issue that kind of comes out, there is a mental aspect, I think, with the offense that caught up with them of like, oh my gosh, we have to like force the issue. I know that they really had to play mistake-free football, but like, I really believe in my heart of hearts, there's a part of Jared Goff that's like, I don't really see it here, but I'm going to throw it because we need points now.
Yeah.
I think really what changed the game is the Lions. I will go to say that the Lions win that game if they don't fumble on 3rd and 1 up 7-3 in the red zone. Because
Yeah,
I
that
mean, if
changes
you
all.
think
Fair.
about like if they're up 14-3, that changes things. It's once you start getting down that they're like, oh, we gotta, we need points now. And I think that became, knowing that the defense wasn't going to pick them up, like the defense, because look, defense was really bad last year, but the defense at the beginning of this year, like weeks 1 through whatever, really good. The defense was really good enough to win a Super Bowl, definitely better than past years.
Yeah.
I do think that obviously the defense factors in. The offense had to be perfect. They weren't. I think part of the reason why the offense wasn't perfect was because they're forcing it. And we talked about it, right, Dylan? The way to exploit this Washington defense was to run the ball. Because they turned the ball over early, especially in that 3rd and 1, you're down. You're getting to the point where you're like, well, we're running the football down 10 in like the second half. We're kind of panicking. It just felt like a culmination of the inevitable happened. I think we all knew once those injuries happened, there was still belief in the Lions, but still kind of like I guess like I held belief, but you know, I think this was truly, if I'm being real with myself, inevitable. And Jared was bad. I'm not super concerned because I do think if you put a better defense out there, the defense that we saw, like Hutchinson, pre-Hutchinson injury, like this team's a Super Bowl contender. They're just going to run it back. That's going to be the plan.
Go ahead, Connor.
Well, I was going to say my takeaway from this was before the game started, I was like, if the Commanders have any chance with the path for them to win would be not a fluke necessarily, but something would have to go wrong. I didn't think it would be domination like this because they held the ball for like 34 minutes of this game. It wasn't just like, a key turnover here or a pick six or something. This was a convincing win, and you guys have hit on it a little bit. If you're Detroit, you knew going into this game, Jayden Daniels was going to put up numbers on this defense. It was going to be a high-scoring game. You cannot shoot yourself in the foot with 5 turnovers and 3 in the first half by Jared Goff. You can't shoot yourself in the foot like that, and that's what happened. And, Ben, you said it too. The defense just wasn't good enough to overcome it, and I want to credit the Commanders. They were 3 for 4 on fourth down. I think Dan Quinn did a great job of staying aggressive, playing that aggressive brand of football without being reckless like we saw O'Connell do a couple weeks ago. So I want to credit the Commanders and Dan Quinn for that because they did 3-4 on fourth down is impressive.
And the other thing is, how effing good was Jayden Daniels in this game? And how confident were you that, look, obviously the Lions' defense not being great in this spot was another reason for this, but whenever it was a big play, I don't know about you guys, I just felt so confident. I'm going, Jayden Daniels is going to make this play happen. Jayden Daniels is going to get this first down. Jayden Daniels is going to make sure they score here. He was dynamite in that game.
I have to issue an apology. I was out on the Commanders coming into the year. I said the Commanders are going to be last, or not maybe not last, but third in the division.
Jayden Daniels wouldn't make it through the season because this offensive line was so bad with Sam Darnold. This guy takes hits. I mean, just still, if you're watching right now, go check out Jayden Daniels' hits while he was playing at LSU. They are horrendous. And I thought that was going to happen when he got to Washington because that offensive line, maybe Sam Howell was just holding that ball too long, but maybe he was holding that ball a little too long, a little Sam Darnold action.
But yeah, I'm with you on that, Carter. I just have an apology to issue for Jayden Daniels because this man, first 2 career playoff games, he is 46 of 66. That's almost 70% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and you trust him in every big moment. And that is not something I would ever say. If somebody would have told me this would happen coming into the year, I would have been shocked, absolutely shocked. So all the credit in the world to him.
For sure. And if you're telling me, like, before the season, I'm not sure how I would have taken the news of Lions will go 15-2, win the 1 seed, lose to the Commanders in the divisional round.
That was going to be like Tom Brady or something. Like Tom Brady came out of retirement.
Well, that was going to be my question to you, Ben, is now that you're kind of now that your team is actually good now and it's been multiple years of them being good, how much more frustrating is it to watch where you go week after week, you guys are dominating through the regular season, win, 15-2. The whole time you're just thinking, playoffs. It's almost where you become an NBA fan where it's like, you know what, regular season's great and all, we're going to win these games, but at the end of the day, the playoffs is all that matters, and it's just got to be so disheartening where you go 15-2 and you lose as a double-digit favorite.
Versus the Commanders who are playing with house money. I feel like that's different when you're
and
Detroit,
that was the Lions last year.
Yeah.
No, it totally was. It's very frustrating because it takes me back to being like the prime years of UVA basketball, Carter. Like, okay, cool. Like we won 30 games in the regular season, but we lost in the second round of the tournament. Like,
hello, Ryan Odom.
Yeah, no, exactly. So like that's kind of where we're really.
Yeah, we interviewed him.
Yeah, we interviewed Ryan.
I did not know that.
Okay.
Utah State legend.
Yeah. Anyway, frustrating. I do have confidence, though. Like, I do believe that they've built kind of a long-term sustainable thing in Detroit. Like, all their best players are 22, 25. You still don't have to pay these guys, or at least their contract extensions don't hit for another couple of years, a large part of them. You're going to have to make some tough decisions down the line. And I get that, but I think they draft so well that they're just always going to be like really good as long as Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are there. I do have concerns about losing the coordinators, like what that's going to look like, but I still think they have the roster for it to still be really good no matter who the coordinators are. It's just a bummer because this year it felt like a prime opportunity to do it. It really did. The injuries were too much to overcome, along with a Goff disaster class.
Yeah.
But I do think it might be cope, but I do think that part of the disaster class on offense was due to knowing that concussed.
He got concussed on when that pick six was happening, and he got threw back. Yeah, he might have gotten concussed on that play.
Every time someone goes into like get tested for a concussion, they 100% have a concussion every time, right?
Yeah. Have you guys have been close to the field at a football game where like you're up close? it is a concussion every play. I mean, let's be
Yeah,
honest.
even like the line, like just hitting each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think my belief, like Jared Goff, like it's like, oh, can Jared Goff get it done? Like one stat that I saw was that at least in the last postseason, like his numbers are really good. Like Jared Goff posted a 103.3 passer rating and the third highest drop back success rate of 52.1% in the postseason. So it's not really a Jared Goff concern as much as I just think they kind of lost their heads in a moment where the defense is helpless. They need the offense to save them, and the offense is forcing things and screwing up. I mean, outside of the fumble and the first pick six, but not first pick six, but the pick six, you had an interception, a fumble, right? Goff is at fault for that. But after that, I'm like, this is just going off the rails at this point. You get down by double digits and you go, oh no, the defense isn't going to stop them. We have to be perfect now. I don't think that's going to be the case when you get guys healthy. I don't think they're going to have this kind of injury luck specifically on one side of the ball like they did on defense. So it sucks, but like I've almost come to peace with it, just going, they weren't going to overcome those injuries. I mean, even if they won, I think we learned they weren't going to beat Philly with just the state they were in right now. So it's just like,
and Montgomery wasn't right. Montgomery came back and wasn't right, clearly.
No, he wasn't right. Like, it's just, after Buffalo, really, their season was over after that Buffalo game. Carlton Davis and Aleem McNeil with season-ending injuries and the Montgomery, like, they just realistically weren't going to come back from that. It's a bummer, but they'll have more opportunities.
Last thing on this game.
Sorry, that was a monologue.
De'Ami Brown, Tar Heel, great performance, 6 for 98 yards.
Did you get his yards in?
Only in a parlay, sadly. I didn't cash it on De'Ami.
Same here. And guess what? Yeah. That thing did not hit.
No, I agree. But last stat on this game. Jayden, this wasn't me, just saw this, so I don't want to be criticized here. Jayden Daniels has as many playoff wins as Dak Prescott now, too. Wow. And every NFC team besides the Dallas Cowboys has now played in an NFC title game since 2010. That's not me. I'm not slandering anybody.
Is that coming from the guy that said the Dallas Cowboys were going to be in the Super Bowl this year?
I checked the tape. I don't know who that guy was. I must have been
new guy.
Somebody else.
I will. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Dallas Cowboys going to win the Super Bowl this year. Very funny.
I'll be back on it next year. Don't worry.
Should we just skip the rest of the show and discuss who's going to be the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys?
Carter, you're hired.
Dion,
ESPN has been looking for a new AP. You're hired.
I was looking. I was kind of hoping Steve Sarkisian before he got that 7-year deal at Texas. That would have been hilarious. Sark at the Cowboys getting how they would have been way too cute. Way too cute. He would have been way too cute in the NFL. But
how funny will it be if it's Dion? Oh my God!
That would be awesome. That's
what I'm rooting for. But let's talk about this last game real quick. Chiefs Texans 23-14. Chiefs win. Kind of a whatever game. Connor, I think we nailed it when we talked about this game in the preview because we go, really at no point are you going to be that concerned that the Chiefs are going to lose this game. Now, when the Texans could have tied it up with the extra point or whatever, you go, but you're not that confident the Chiefs are going to lose this game. It got semi-shaky, and it really didn't matter. The safety happens and whatnot, and depending on what
Vegas
number you
special,
got.
by the way, on the safety.
Yeah, that was
Vegas
a Vegas special.
But no, not Vegas. If you had Chiefs minus 9.5, that's your own fault. That's the last thing the books wanted, with Texans 9.5 available at post and Chiefs minus 7.5 available at open.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. A Vegas special.
Yeah.
They get screwed on that.
Vegas? No way they got screwed on that.
You get all the big bets and the smart guys on Chiefs minus 7.5. And then you get all the big guys and the smart guys on Texans plus 9.5 at post.
Nah.
Yeah. Come on now. Come on, boys. We've been doing this for years. You guys know how this works.
But the problem is, how many Joe Schmoes are putting $100 on Chiefs minus 9.5? Like, that has to add
10
up
minutes before kickoff.
Yeah,
I'm sure Joe Schmo's $10 right at kickoff is a lot more than the 100,000 that the sharps are putting on the Texans at open.
Yeah, but when there's probably 500,000 dudes putting $20 down on the Chiefs minus 9.5, that does matter. Actually,
That was not a Vegas special.
you're only looking at Circa. People aren't
Yeah.
betting $20 at Circa.
There's a sect of people that are going to be upset with that. That's your own fault for losing Chiefs minus 9.5.
We're not saying sorry to them. We're just saying it was a Vegas special.
It was okay.
It was a Vegas special.
It wasn't, but
Texans are the first team to outgain their opponent by 100 or more yards, not turn the ball over, and lose a playoff game. Previous teams that did that were 49-0.
Well, it's because of those zebras giving Mahomes all the calls, dude.
I saw some interesting stats. Since 2018, Chiefs are minus 693 yards in net penalty yardage. Just saying.
minus.
Like they have been penalized more than the opposing team. Minus 693.
Don't let that get out there.
No, to cover
Do
that
not
up.
let that get out there.
It
That's
is.
interesting.
The
But
Mahomes
you do have
flopping
Jawan
stuff.
Taylor on your team. You have to adjust for that. You have
Wait,
the
did you
worst
say
offensive
Joy or
tackle on your team.
Jawan?
They'd be getting all the calls if they had Joy Taylor
I
on
mean,
the
I was
team.
about to say that's a team player right there.
Yeah.
Jawan, I don't know.
Yeah, the potential there.
Yeah.
Do you want to just talk about the Mahomes stuff off the rip?
Yeah, let's do it.
The flopping stuff. So, how do you guys feel about it? Because there was a few calls in that game that were 50-50. I mean, it was pretty interesting if you watched the game.
May I share?
Resident Chiefs fan Karter Baughan.
Ooh. May I
love
share
that-
my screen?
Yeah, share your screen, Dylan, and then we'll go off that.
Just
sharing the screen
this
right
is
now
the
if you're
one. This
listening.
is the one flop, the biggest flop.
Yes.
So he
That's the
slowed
biggest
down.
one.
He
if you haven't
slowed
seen
down
it.
and then sold it.
Yeah. So
And
just
he
in case
wasn't
anybody didn't
even
see
hit
it.
out of bounds is the issue. Like,
Right.
Yeah, the push was
He
in
was in
bounds.
bounds.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Like him slowing down probably actually hurt him because he would have been out of bounds if he didn't slow down.
yeah, no, I hate the flopping stuff. You should not be rewarding flopping in any sport. I think it's terrible. But the issue is Mahomes is good at baiting him into it, and so they're going to call it every time. And so, and the big issue with this is not even the Mahomes stuff that is an issue, but it's the issue that's going to come after this because next season we are going to see a lot more dudes start flopping and getting these calls. Josh Allen has already started this a little bit. Just watch next game. You're going to see Josh Allen start playing like it's going to be Trae Young versus James Harden a little bit when they're running out of bounds.
I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm saying why is it happening now? This is Mahomes has been doing this this isn't a new development. Are we surprised that it just happened this game?
To the extent it's pretty severe, I feel like.
Dalton Kincaid flopped it when he got pushed in that game. Like people flop in football all the time. Now I'm not saying it's right, but we're talking about it like this is a new revelation. Mahomes is flopping all of a sudden.
I'm saying it's gotten to a point now where all the other quarterbacks are going to start flopping now.
I think we are going to see a counter movement where refs stop calling it as much. I'm dead serious.
That's what I hope.
I think when you have the Texans players and coaches going up after the game and saying we knew we couldn't let the game be in the refs' hands, X, Y, and Z, regardless of the stat you said, Connor, which is very eye-opening. That's a great stat. I think
But situationally, if you look at probably postseason games, I bet that number's a lot different.
Sure, that's true too. That's probably very true. I think we'll get into it with our preview for the Chiefs games, but I think we see the refs start to swallow their whistle a little bit because that's awful for the league.
So this is going to be an unpopular opinion, bouncing off what you said, Dylan. I actually don't fault Patrick Mahomes for what's happening, for what he's doing. I think it's more of a league problem. If you have a clear advantage to help your team and you know the refs are going to call it and you know it's going to be called in your favor and the offensive player, especially star quarterback's favor, I would do it too. And you want to talk about, integrity of the game, he's flopping, he's doing this and that. If I knew I could get my team a clear-cut advantage in a playoff game like that, I would do it as much as possible.
Yep.
And it kind of boils down to the same thing. I hate to relate it back to basketball, but I will, where all those years of Harden foul baiting and Trae Young foul baiting and stuff like that worked, yeah, it was horrible to watch and I hated it. But if you had a chance to give your team an advantage like that, you do it. You do it 10 times out of 10. So I will never blame the player for that. Yeah, it sucks to watch, but it's more of an officiating problem. It's more of a league problem where if they don't change something about how they call it, this is just what we're going to see. And I think you're right about that, Karter. We're going to start seeing this more and more where, you want to protect the quarterback so bad, these faces of the league. Why don't you do it, Josh Allen? Hey, Lamar, start falling down. Hey, CJ Stroud. Hey, Jayden Daniels, start flopping more. I think we're going to see that more, but it's not a player problem.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. And I think it's I actually kind of lean towards what Dylan was saying is I think the refs are going to make a hard stance about this one in the offseason and say,
they should.
Look, we're not rewarding flopping. We don't want to be anything like the NBA. We're not going to let that happen. And I think that's what we're getting closer towards. At least I hope. But talking about the Chiefs-Texans game real quick, CJ Stroud, are we concerned about CJ Stroud?
Always been.
He was pressured on 19 of his 41 dropbacks per PFF. So it's like he wasn't kept clean the whole game. A lot of the stuff wasn't necessarily on him, but
Can I be honest?
Stroud's not going to just turn into some elite quarterback after what we saw last week.
This is fully biased everything. You can Carolina Panther goggles on and everything. I don't care. I have zero sympathy that CJ Stroud doesn't have an offensive line this year.
I don't
care that Caleb Williams doesn't have an offensive line this year because no one cared when Bryce Young had one of the worst offensive lines in NFL history.
Worst weapons.
And some of the worst weapons. Meanwhile, at least CJ Stroud still has arguably a top 6-7 wide receiver in this league right now in Collins. Michigan man himself, Nico Collins. Joe Mixon's not a bad running back by any stretch of the imagination. I guess it's a little difficult to win when you're getting pressured on every single play.
Wait, whoa.
Chiefs had 8 sacks.
Whoa. They're in the playoffs. I mean, what are we doing here?
They backed their way into the playoffs. People are asking if the Panthers played in that division next year, they might be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I love what you guys are doing. That's
Oh, Dylan, this is like you talking crap about Ohio State right now. Meanwhile, Ohio State's about to lift the national title.
I'm for it. I'm on record. I'm rooting. Yeah. You'll see during the live stream tonight. I'm all for it.
So when Bryce and CJ Stroud played their one game head to head, Bryce beat him.
Okay.
So therefore, the Panthers
are better than the Texans,
and they own the Texans, right?
If you want to say that, sure.
And they beat Jim Harbaugh, I guess, by association.
By your logic.
Whoa, wait. Holy crap.
By your logic, we would have owned the Texans. So I'm just putting that out there.
Did you beat them 4 years in a row?
I think our last 4. I think we might have beaten the Texans 4 in a row. I'm not actually lying. I think because remember that Thursday night game when Sam Darnold goes 3-0, Christian McCaffrey gets hurt in that game, but all of a sudden they're like Matt Rule and the Panthers 3-0 after this Thursday night win over the Texans, and then they proceeded to go like 5-11. So.
All you're gonna see on social media is Mahomes flop penalties, Chiefs penalties. The Texans shot themselves in the foot a pretty decent amount. If you watch that game, there was a lot of self-inflicted penalties and mistakes, special teams. They didn't deserve to win that game. Flopping.
No, and they did not. They just weren't on the same level as this Chiefs team, and that offensive line was not going to help C.J. Stroud out in any way. And look, the better team won, and it was on the road. And
we nailed it, Karter.
We nailed it.
Chiefs have been winning ugly all year long.
It was going to be an ugly win, and they still won by arguably 11 points if it wasn't for that safety at the very end. So.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, there's not really much more to dive into from that game.
Real quick stats. I guess kind of stats. Either Brady or Mahomes has been in the AFC Championship 14 years in a row. Isn't that crazy to think about?
That is actually absurd.
We have to appreciate it while it's happening, right?
I guess so. Mahomes, 8th straight playoff win. Another crazy stat.
That actually is crazy. In a loaded AFC, too. A loaded AFC with quarterback-wise.
That's all I had. Karlaftis, 8 pressures, 3 sacks. Huge game from him.
He was dominant in that game.
Better team won. I think that's as simple as
Pacheco,
as
5 for 18 yards. Just not.
I'll tell you what. No,
I'm telling you guys.
Some dumb podcaster was saying they're saving him.
They're saving
him for what? They saved Travis Kelce. Kelce had what? 7 receptions, 117 yards and a touchdown. Most yards in the game all year.
The thing is, that's been proven, though, because that's been a thing
we knew that.
For multiple years and whatnot. But
30 yards after catch over expected.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's true.
Only 3 touchdowns in the regular season. I bet he matches that number in the playoffs.
For all my golf fellas out there, it's like Brooks Koepka in majors. It's like the little tournaments don't matter. It's the majors.
Oh, it's like my WNBA fellows out there. It's like when
some of the
big
WNBA
Sabrina
fellas.
Ionescu guy.
I've seen a couple of those in the news lately. Stalking Caitlin Clark.
Yeah,
That's tough. That's tough. Look for WNBA fellas.
Yeah, WNBA fellas. Yeah, we got stumped. Anyhow, should we move over to the preview now?
Let's do it.
All right. Real quick, if you're listening to this on audio right now, move over. It's going to be a separate recording. We're going to record their championship previews. It's all going to be out together. So tune into that. We're headed out of here. Download SeatGeek. Use code Karterkast on your first purchase. $20 off. We'll see y'all there. Bye.